The Velthari Coalition had spent 11,000 years building toward this moment. Not 11,000 years of preparation for first contact specifically, 11,000 years of civilization, 11,000 years of cultural development, technological advancement, and interstellar expansion. 11,000 years that had produced a union of 14 sentient species, united under a single governing body, bound by a single purpose. To find other lives, to reach out, to connect. The coalition had discovered the ruins of three extinct civilizations in its history: dead worlds, silent cities, fossilized records of species that had risen and fallen without ever knowing they were not alone. Each discovery had been a wound, a reminder of what the coalition existed to prevent: isolation, ignorance, the tragedy of dying alone in an infinite universe. When their deep-range arrays had detected the first radio leakage from the Sol system 214 years ago, the coalition had wept. 14 species, trillions of individuals, a shared emotional release that transcended biology, culture, and language. They were not alone. The universe was not empty. Somewhere, out past the edge of known space, another species had looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone was looking back. The coalition had spent the next 2 centuries preparing. First contact was not something to be rushed. It was not something to be improvised. The coalition had developed an entire scientific discipline around the concept. Xenocontactology, teams of specialists from every member species, linguists, sociologists, biologists, diplomats, psychologists, engineers, all working together to design the perfect introduction. They studied humanity from afar: radio signals, electromagnetic leakage, orbital light patterns, atmospheric composition. They built models of human society, mapped their languages, traced their history, analyzed their art, their music, their wars. The conclusions were concerning. Humanity was violent, deeply, consistently, creatively violent. Their history was a catalog of conflict, species against species, nation against nation, ideology against ideology. They had fought over land, over resources, over beliefs, over pride. They had developed weapons of extraordinary destructive power and used them on each other. Twice. But they had also built cities, composed symphonies, cured diseases, mapped their own genome, launched probes beyond their own star system. They were capable of beauty and brutality in equal measure. The coalition's sociologists classified them as a Type 7 emerging civilization, intelligent enough to be dangerous, divisive enough to be unpredictable. The coalition debated the approach for decades. Some argued for cautious observation. Wait until humanity matured. Wait until they unified. Wait until they were ready. Others argued for immediate contact. Show them they were not alone. Give them something to aspire to. Guide them toward peace. The debate ended when a new set of readings arrived from the Sol system. Humanity's radio leakage had stopped. Not gradually, not as a slow decline, all at once, across every frequency, every band, every channel. The noise that had been emanating from the third planet for 2 centuries simply ceased. The coalition panicked. Silence from a developing civilization usually meant one thing: self-destruction. The species had killed itself. The radio silence was the sound of extinction. For 3 years, the coalition mourned. Memorials were held on 14 homeworlds. Documents were archived. Humanity was classified as a lost civilization, another silent ruin in a universe full of them. Then the signals resumed. But they were different: not radio leakage, not the ambient noise of a developing world. Tight beam-directed pulses, encrypted, compressed, aimed at specific points in space with mathematical precision. The coalition's cryptographers spent 11 years decoding them. When they finished, they found star maps, detailed charts of coalition territory, patrol routes. installation locations, energy signatures of coalition vessels. Humanity had been watching the coalition. Humanity had been watching the coalition for longer than the coalition had been watching humanity. The debate ended. Contact would happen, not because the coalition wanted it, because humanity had already made it. The first contact fleet was assembled. Fleet Commander Tolsen had trained for this moment for 40 years. She was a Velthari, 7 feet tall, 4 arms, skin the color of polished copper, eyes that saw across more spectrums than most species could name. She had been selected from 14,000 candidates to lead the most important mission in Coalition history. Her fleet was not a war fleet. The Coalition did not have war fleets, it had never needed them. 14 species united in purpose had never faced an external threat. They had no enemies. If they had no rivals, they had only the silence and now, finally, someone to break it. But the fleet was impressive nonetheless. 3,000 vessels, survey ships, research platforms, diplomatic couriers, communication relays, habitat modules for extended first contact operations, medical ships equipped to handle unknown biological contingencies, engineering vessels capable of constructing orbital infrastructure on short notice. The fleet stretched across 12 miles of space when assembled. 3,000 ships, each one gleaming white, marked with the Coalition's symbol. A circle of 14 intersecting lines, each one representing a member species, each one touching the others, forming a pattern that meant unity. Tolsen stood on the bridge of the flagship Meridian and reviewed the contact protocol for the 900th time. Approach, enter the Sol system at sublight velocity, no aggressive posturing, weapons systems offline, shields at minimum. Broadcast the Coalition's greeting on all frequencies, all languages, all formats. Wait, allow humanity time to observe, analyze, and respond. Do not approach closer than 1 astronomical unit to their homeworld without explicit invitation. Communication, establish linguistic framework, begin exchange of cultural, scientific, and historical information. Build trust gradually. Diplomacy, propose formal relations. Offer coalition membership. Integrate humanity into the interstellar community. The protocol was 400 pages long. It covered every conceivable scenario: hostile response, confused response, no response, religious response, military response, panicked response. Tolsen had memorized every page. She had not memorized what to do if humanity responded with boredom. No protocol covered that, because no one had imagined it. The fleet entered the Sol system at dawn local time. Sublight velocity, weapons offline, shields minimum. The greeting broadcast began, 14 languages, mathematical foundations, musical patterns, visual symbols. Every format the Coalition had developed for communicating with an alien species. The broadcast repeated on a loop. Tolsen waited. 1 hour passed. 2 hours. 6 hours. 12 hours. The humans did not respond. Tolsen ordered passive scans. The third planet was there, blue and white. Clouds swirled in familiar patterns. The orbital space around it was cluttered with satellites, debris, and structures. Life signs blanketed the surface. Billions of them. The humans were there. They were alive. They were not responding. Perhaps they did not receive the broadcast, suggested Dr. Aaron Wall, the fleet's chief xenocontactologist. A Velthari, small, round, covered in iridescent feathers that shifted color with emotion. Right now they were a nervous yellow. They received it, Tolsen said. Our broadcast is covering every frequency they use, and several they don't. Perhaps they are deliberating. This is an unprecedented event for them. They may be in crisis. Tolsen considered this. It was possible. First contact with an alien civilization would be traumatic for a species that had believed itself alone. The humans might be in chaos, governments falling, religions collapsing, markets crashing. Continue broadcasting, she said. Maintain position. Passive scans only. 18 hours after entry, the humans responded. Not with a return broadcast, not with a ship, not with a weapon. With a text message. Received on a frequency the Coalition had not known humanity could access. Translated into perfect Velthari, not approximate, not machine-translated, perfect. Grammar, syntax, idiomatic nuance, flawless. The message was 11 words long. We see you, stand by, we are a bit busy. Tolsen read it 3 times. Dr. Aaronwall's feathers turned from yellow to a confused orange. Busy, the doctor said. Busy with what? Tolsen did not answer. She forwarded the message to the fleet's analysis teams and ordered them to determine what the humans were busy with. The answer came 4 hours later. It made no sense. The analysis teams worked for 96 hours straight. They scanned every frequency, every energy signature, every movement in the Sol system. They mapped human activity across the surface of the third planet and throughout the surrounding orbital space. The results were contradictory. On the surface, humanity appeared to be functioning normally. Cities were active. Transportation networks were running. Agricultural output was consistent. Industrial production was stable. There were no signs of crisis, panic, or societal collapse. But the orbital picture told a different story. Humanity had built an orbital infrastructure that dwarfed anything the Coalition's models had predicted. Not just satellites, not just stations, shipyards, massive ones, orbital dry docks capable of constructing vessels that measured kilometers in length. The Coalition's analysts counted 47 major shipyards in orbit around the third planet alone. 47. The Coalition's entire fleet of 3,000 vessels had taken 11,000 years and 14 species to build. Humanity had 47 shipyards around a single planet. And the shipyards were active. Welding arcs flared, hull sections moved, new vessels emerged from construction bays at a rate that the analysts initially dismissed as a sensor error. It was not an error. Humanity was building warships, not patrol boats, not exploration vessels. Warships, armed, armored, engineered for combat. The analysts identified weapon emplacements, defense grids, and propulsion systems that matched or exceeded Coalition standards. How many? Tolsen asked. The lead analyst, a Thessan named Ulven, hesitated before answering. Thessans were known for their precision. Ulven did not like imprecision. Based on current construction rates and existing inventory, Ulven said carefully, we estimate the human orbital fleet numbers between 800,000 and 1.2 million vessels. Tolsen did not react. She had trained too long to react visibly. I'll say that again, she said. 1.2 million vessels, Commander, minimum. That estimate only includes ships in orbit around their homeworld. We have not yet surveyed their outer system. Dr. Aaronwall's feathers had gone gray. In Velthari color language, gray meant cognitive overload. That is not possible, the doctor said. Our models projected a maximum human fleet of perhaps 300 vessels by this stage of development. 1.2 million is 4,000 times our projection, Ulven confirmed. Tolsen looked at the display. The human shipyards churned, new hulls emerged. The scale of it was staggering, not because of the technology. The technology was impressive but not incomprehensible, because of the speed. The humans were building ships faster than the Coalition could count them. Where are the resources coming from? She asked. Ulven pulled up a mineral survey of the Sol system. The humans have extensively mined their asteroid belt. Approximately 40% of its total mass has been extracted and processed. They have also established mining operations on the fourth planet and several of its moons. Resource throughput is approximately. He paused. Approximately what? Tolson said. Approximately 11 times the total resource throughput of the entire coalition. Silence on the bridge. 11 times, 14 species, 11,000 years of civilization, and one human species operating from a single star system was moving 11 times as much raw material. There is more, Ulven said. His voice was very quiet. The humans are not just building ships, they are building something else. He pulled up a new scan, deep system, past the sixth planet. In the darkness near the system's edge, a structure was taking shape, partially complete, but even incomplete, its dimensions were difficult to comprehend. A sphere, or the beginning of one. Frame segments arcing through the void, each segment hundreds of kilometers long, energy conduits connecting them, construction drones swarming over the framework like insects over a carcass. What is it? Tolson asked. We believe it is a Dyson swarm, partial. Approximately 12% complete at current assessment, but even at 12% the energy capture would exceed. Exceed what? Exceed the energy output of every power source in the coalition combined. Tolson sat down. She had come to this system expecting to find a developing species, primitive, odd, grateful for contact with a superior civilization. She had found an industrial machine that outproduced the combined output of 14 species by an order of magnitude. And they were busy. She finally understood the message. They were not busy because of the coalition's arrival. They had been busy before the coalition arrived. The coalition was an interruption, a minor one, a text message and back to work. Commander, Ulven said, I need to report something else, something that does not fit any model. Report. The human warships. They are not configured for operations within the Sol system. Their weapon ranges, their supply capacities, their crew rotation schedules, all of it suggests they are designed for extended operations far from their homeworld. How far? Ulven pulled up a range projection, a sphere centered on Sol. It expanded outward, past neighboring stars, past coalition territory, past the edge of mapped space. Their operational range, based on current propulsion and supply metrics, is approximately 15,000 light-years. 15,000 light-years. The coalition's total territory spanned 8,000. The humans had built a fleet that could operate almost twice as far from home as the coalition's entire span of civilization. Uncle, Mander, Ulven said quietly, they were not building this fleet for defense. You do not build a fleet with a 15,000 light-year operational range to defend your homeworld. You build that to project power, to reach someone, to fight someone. Tolson stared at the projection. Who were they planning to fight? She asked. No one answered. Because no one knew. On the fifth day, humanity sent a second message. The coalition fleet is welcome to proceed to the following coordinates for formal contact. Please maintain sublight velocity. Do not deviate from the provided flight path. Arrival window opens in 72 hours. Coordinates were included. A point in space approximately 1 astronomical unit from the third planet. A clean, empty stretch of orbital space. Tolson studied the message. It was polite, professional, transmitted in perfect Velthari again, but there was something beneath the politeness, a firmness, an expectation of compliance. The message did not invite, it instructed. This is unusual, Dr. Aaronwall said. Standard first contact protocol places the initiative on the arriving party. The humans are dictating terms. They are managing the encounter, Tolsen said. On their territory by their rules, that is not unreasonable. It is not unreasonable, Dr. Aronwal agreed. But it is not the behavior of a species encountering aliens for the first time. They are too calm, too organized, too prepared. Tolsen acknowledged this. The humans had responded to first contact with a text message and a flight plan. No panic, no awe, no spiritual crisis, no urgent debates broadcast across every frequency, just calm, measured instructions. As if they had done this before. Tolsen dismissed the thought. They had not done this before. The Coalition's monitoring confirmed that humanity had never encountered another sentient species. This was first contact for both parties. Wasn't it? The fleet followed the provided flight path, 3,000 white vessels moving in formation through the Sol system. As they approached the designated coordinates, Tolsen noted that the human orbital infrastructure was even more extensive up close than the scans had suggested. The shipyards were not just large, they were layered. Multiple levels of construction stacked on top of each other, connected by transit corridors and material conduits. Each yard was a city in itself. And between the yards, warships moved. Hundreds of them, thousands. They did not approach the Coalition fleet. They did not threaten. They simply moved. Patrol patterns, resupply runs, training exercises. The normal operations of a navy going about its business. A navy of over 1 million ships. Tolsen's fleet of 3,000 looked very small. The fleet reached the coordinates. A single human vessel was waiting for them. It was not impressive by human standards. Approximately 400 meters long, gray hull, minimal markings, it looked like a work vessel, a utility craft. Next to the Coalition's gleaming white diplomatic couriers, it looked almost shabby. But Tolsen knew that appearances in this system meant nothing. A communication channel opened. Video, the first visual contact between the Coalition and humanity. The human on the screen was unremarkable. Average height, brown hair, blue eyes, a face that could belong to any of the billions on the surface below. He wore a simple dark garment with no insignia. He smiled. Commander Tolsen, he said, his Velthari was perfect, not just grammatically perfect, culturally perfect. He used the formal register, the honorific prefixes, the subtle intonation patterns that marked educated Velthari speech. Welcome to the Sol system. My name is Director James Hayden. I speak for the United Earth Defense Authority in matters of extraterrestrial contact. Tolsen recovered from the shock of hearing her name spoken by an alien who should not have known it. Director Hayden, she said carefully, the coalition of 14 species extends greetings to humanity. We come in peace. We come in friendship. We come to offer. Yes, Hayden interrupted gently. We've received your broadcast, all 47 versions of it. We appreciate the effort. Your xenocontactology teams have done remarkable work. He paused. We've been studying your civilization for approximately 214 years, Commander. We know who you are, we know what you are, we know why you are here. The bridge of the meridian was silent. We also know, Hayden continued, that you are not the reason we built all of this. He gestured vaguely, as if the gesture could encompass 1 million warships, 47 shipyards, and a partial Dyson swarm. You built that fleet for us, Tolsen asked. Hayden laughed, not cruelly, not mockingly, but with a genuine amusement that suggested the question was naive. No, Commander, we did not build this fleet for you. You are. Not a threat, you never were. We built this fleet for something else. Oh, then what? Hayden's expression changed. The smile faded. In its place was something Tolsen had not expected to see on a human face. A fear. Not fear of her, not fear of the coalition, fear of something else, something that lived behind his eyes and colored every word he spoke. The commander, Hayden, said, "How much do you know about what exists beyond your territory?" Tolsen frowned. The coalition has explored approximately 8,000 light-years in all directions from our core systems. Beyond that, our data is limited to long-range sensor readings. And what do those readings show? Empty space background radiation, the normal signatures of an uninhabited galaxy. Hayden nodded slowly. Yes, that is what your sensors show. That is what our sensors showed too for a long time. What changed? Hayden leaned back in his chair. We discovered that our sensors were wrong, not broken, not miscalibrated. Wrong, something out there is generating a signature that mimics empty space. It looks like nothing because it is designed to look like nothing. Tolsen felt her forearms tighten against her sides. You are telling me there is something in the void, something hidden. I am telling you there is something in the void that has been hiding from every sensor in this galaxy for longer than your civilization has existed. We detected it 47 years ago. It took us 19 years to confirm it was real. It took us another 28 years to understand what it was. What is it? Hayden looked directly into the camera. It is a fleet, Commander, a fleet that makes ours look like a fishing boat. We have been able to partially map it. Our best estimate is 400 million vessels. Minimum, possibly significantly more. The number hit Tolsen like a physical impact. 400 millions. The coalition had 3,000 ships. The humans had 1.2 million. 400 million was a number that redefined the concept of a fleet. That is not possible, she said. We thought the same thing, Hayden said. We spent 19 years trying to disprove it. We could not. It is there. It has always been there. And approximately 62 years from now, based on its current trajectory, it will reach coalition territory. Oh, he let that sink in. It will reach human territory first. Tolsen ordered the fleet to defensive formation. It was an instinct, a reflex born of 40 years of training. But as the 3,000 coalition vessels shifted into a protective cluster, she realized how absurd it looked. 3,000 ships arranged for battle in a system containing over 1 million human warships. Like a mouse baring its teeth at a mountain lion. Director Hayden watched the formation shift on his own display. He did not comment on it. He seemed to understand that Tolsen needed to do something, anything, to feel like she had control. Commander, he said, I need to show you something. I am transmitting a data package to your flagship now. It contains everything we know about what is coming. I need you to have your analysts review it, all of it, before we continue this conversation. The data package arrived, 47 terabytes of information. Sensor readings, trajectory calculations, spectral analyses, gravitational anomaly maps, and in the center of it all an image. Tolsen stared at the image for a long time. It was a sensor reconstruction, not a photograph. A mathematical rendering of what the hidden signature looked like when you stripped away the camouflage, when you peeled back the layer of false emptiness and revealed what was underneath. Warships. Not individual vessels, not in any sense that Tolsen could understand. Structures so large that they blurred the line between ship and station and artificial world, each one measured hundreds of kilometers across. They were dark, not just unlit, actively dark, absorbing light, absorbing energy, absorbing attention. And there were so many of them. The reconstruction showed a volume of space approximately 200 light-years across. That volume was filled, not scattered, not dispersed, filled, wall to wall, floor to ceiling, a solid mass of dark shapes packed together so tightly that there was barely room between them. 400 million is the minimum estimate, Dr. Aaron Wall said. The doctor had been reviewing the data alongside Tolsen. His feathers had gone white, not gray, white. In Velthari color language, white meant existential dread. The maximum estimate based on the density of the formation is 1.2 billion. 1.2 billions. Against 1.2 million human ships and 3,000 coalition vessels. A ratio of 1,000 to 1. Tolsen closed her eyes. How long have they been there? Best estimate, Ulven said, reading from the data package. The formation has been in its current position for approximately 300,000 years. It has been moving toward the galactic interior at a velocity of approximately 0.03% of light speed. 300,000 years, Tolsen repeated. Moving at sublight speed. That means they started moving before the coalition existed, before humanity existed, before any known civilization in this region of space existed. Oh yes. They have been traveling for 300,000 years. Oh yes. Tolsen opened her eyes. Where did they come from? No one answered. The data package did not contain that information. The humans did not know. The formation had been detected at its current position. Its origin point was beyond the range of any sensor, human, or coalition. Whatever these things were, they had come from somewhere beyond the edge of mapped space, from a part of the galaxy that no one had ever explored. Or from somewhere else entirely. How did the humans detect them? Tolsen asked. If their camouflage fools all known sensors, how did you see through it? Ulven pulled up a specific section of the data package. A technical diagram, a new type of sensor. We did not see through the camouflage, Ulven said, reading the human notes. We detected an edge effect. The camouflage is not perfect. At the boundary between the hidden formation and normal space, there is a microscopic distortion, a fluctuation in the cosmic microwave background. It is incredibly subtle. The humans detected it by accident. A research team was studying background radiation patterns when they noticed a statistical anomaly that should not have existed. And from that tiny anomaly, they deduced 400 million ships. No, from that tiny anomaly, they deduced that something was wrong. They spent 19 years investigating that wrongness. They developed new sensor technology specifically to probe it. They launched 12,000 deep-range probes. 700 of those probes entered the formation's perimeter. None of them returned, but before they went silent, they transmitted data. What kind of data? Visual confirmation, direct sensor readings, structural analysis of the outermost vessels, and one more thing. Ulven pulled up a final file, a signal analysis. The probes detected a communication network within the formation. Not radio, not electromagnetic, something else. A quantum-linked communication system, instantaneous, zero latency. Every vessel in the formation is in constant, real-time communication with every other vessel. Tolsen felt the weight of that. 400 million ships, maybe more, all connected, all thinking together, not a fleet. A single organism with 400 million bodies. Are they alive, she asked. The ships, are they crewed or are they automated? The data package was unclear on this point. The human analysts had included multiple hypotheses. None of them were comforting. Hypothesis 1. The vessels were crewed by a biological species. A species that had been traveling for 300,000 years. A species that had launched this fleet before humanity's ancestors had learned to walk upright. Hypothesis 2. The vessels were automated, built by a civilization that no longer existed. A dead god's final gesture. Machines continuing a mission whose origin had been forgotten. Hypothesis 3. The vessels were themselves alive. Not ships, organisms, biological or synthetic or something in between. Entities that did not distinguish between self and vessel because there was no distinction to make. Which hypothesis do the humans believe? Tolsen asked. Ulven checked the notes. They believe Hypothesis 3. They believe the formation is a single organism. They have given it a designation. What designation? A designation swarm. Tolsen stared at the image of the dark shapes packed wall to wall across 200 light-years of space. A swarm. The name was too small for what she was looking at. The meeting between Tolsen and Director Hayden continued in person. Hayden's vessel docked with the Meridian. A delegation of 12 humans boarded the Coalition flagship. They moved through the corridors with calm efficiency. They did not gawk. They did not marvel at Velthari architecture or Thessan technology or Kilthari biology. They observed, they noted, they filed away. They had done their homework. The meeting chamber was the Meridian's Grand Diplomatic Hall, a vaulted space designed to impress, curved walls of polished stone, holographic displays showing the Coalition's history, seating arranged to make every delegation feel equal. The humans sat down, Hayden at the center, the others flanking him. They did not look impressed. They looked like people who had a lot to do and not much time to do it. Commander, Hayden said, I am going to be direct. We have been preparing for the swarm's arrival for 47 years, in that we have built the largest military infrastructure in known history. We have done this alone. We have done this in secret. We have done this because we did not know who else we could trust. You could have contacted us, Tolsen said. We considered it for about 3 seconds. We were monitoring your communications. We knew the Coalition had no military capability, no warships, no combat experience, no defensive infrastructure. You are a peaceable union of 14 species that has never faced a threat. If we had told you about the swarm, you would have had 2 reactions. Panic, which would have been useless, or denial, which would have been worse. Tolsen wanted to argue, but she could not. Hayden was right. The Coalition had no framework for processing an existential threat of this magnitude. They would have debated, studied, formed committees, written reports, and the swarm would have kept coming. What do you want from us? Tolsen asked. Hayden leaned forward. We want your scientists, your engineers, your resources, your manufacturing capacity, everything the Coalition can contribute to the war effort. War effort, Tolsen repeated. You are planning to fight them. We are planning to survive them. Fighting is a component of that plan, not the only component, but a necessary one. Director, the mathematics do not support a fighting strategy. Even with human production combined with Coalition resources, we cannot match their numbers. 1.2 billion vessels against. We are not trying to match their numbers. Tolsen waited. Hayden gestured to one of his delegation. A woman, dark hair, sharp eyes. She activated a holographic projector and displayed a tactical diagram. I am Dr. Sarah Chen, lead strategist for the Defense Authority. Commander, the swarm is not a fleet, it is an organism. A single distributed intelligence spread across hundreds of millions of bodies. That is its strength, it is also its weakness. Explain. A distributed intelligence requires communication. Constant, high-bandwidth, zero-latency communication. That is how it coordinates, how it thinks, how it moves. Without that communication, it is not a single organism. It is 400 million disconnected units. Individually, each unit is formidable, but uncoordinated, they are just noise. Dr. Chen enlarged a section of the tactical diagram, a network map, the quantum communication links that connected every vessel in the swarm. We have spent 41 years developing a weapon to disrupt that communication, not jam it, not block it, disrupt it at the quantum level, introduce noise into the quantum entanglement channels that link the swarm's consciousness. Is that possible? Tolsen asked. Dr. Chen's expression was flat. We have tested it on a small scale. We captured a swarm scout vessel 7 years ago, a single unit that had drifted ahead of the main formation. We isolated it, we applied the disruption field. The vessel went inert, not destroyed, not damaged, inert. The unit inside stopped functioning, not because it died, because without the connection to the larger organism, it had no purpose, no will, no direction. It shut down, Tolsen said. It ceased, the unit was alive, biologically intact, but the intelligence that drove it was distributed across the quantum network. Sever that network and the intelligence has nowhere to exist. It does not die, it disperses, like a mind shattered into fragments too small to hold a thought. Tolsen looked at the diagram, the quantum links, the communication network, the thread that held 1 billion ships together as a single entity. You need to deploy this disruption weapon across the entire formation, she said. Yes, simultaneously, every link, every vessel, at the same moment. If we miss even 1%, the remaining network may be sufficient to sustain partial intelligence, and a partial swarm is still a catastrophe. How do you deploy across 200 light-years simultaneously? Dr. Chen pulled up another diagram, a network of human constructions, nodes, relays, transmission points. We have been building the deployment system for 31 years. It consists of 712 disruption emitters, positioned throughout human-controlled space and beyond. Each emitter can cover a radius of approximately 2 light-years. Together, they overlap to create a continuous field that encompasses the entire projected contact zone. A projected contact zone, Tolsen repeated, where the swarm will enter human space. Yes, we have calculated their arrival point based on current trajectory. They will enter the zone in approximately 62 years. The emitters will activate simultaneously at the moment of entry. And if your calculations are wrong? Dr. Chen did not flinch. Then we adjust. We have 62 years to build more emitters, to extend the field, to account for error. That is why we are LL building, that is why we are busy. Tolsen turned back to Hayden and the fleet, the 1.2 million warships. Insurance, if the disruption field fails or if it is only partially effective, the fleet engages. We do not expect to win a conventional battle, but we can buy time, evacuate populations, delay the swarm's advance while we deploy secondary measures. Secondary measures. Hayden's expression darkened. Measures I am not authorized to discuss with you today. Tolsen recognized a boundary. She did not push it, not yet. The coalition can contribute, she said. Our manufacturing capacity is modest compared to yours, but our scientific expertise is considerable. 14 species, 11,000 years of accumulated knowledge. Hayden nodded. We know, we have been studying your scientific databases for over a century. There are areas where your technology exceeds ours, materials science. Certain aspects of quantum physics, bioengineering, we want access to all of it. But in exchange for protection, when the swarm arrives, your territory is in its path. Without human intervention, the coalition will be consumed approximately 40 years after the swarm enters human space. We are offering to extend our defense umbrella to cover your territory. Tolsen understood. The humans were not asking for allies, they were offering protection. A protection racket dressed in diplomatic language. Contribute to our war effort and we will save you from something you did not know existed until yesterday. But it was not a racket, it was a necessity. The humans were not threatening the coalition with the swarm. The swarm was coming regardless. The humans were simply the only species prepared to do anything about it. You could have let the swarm destroy us, Tolsen said. Consumed our resources for yourselves, why offer protection? Hayden looked at her. For a moment the diplomat's mask slipped. Underneath was something rower, something tired. Because we have been alone for 47 years, Commander, 47 years knowing what is coming. 47 years building and planning and preparing while the rest of the galaxy slept. Do you know what that does to a species? The isolation, the weight of it. He paused. We do not want to be alone anymore. We need you, not your ships, not your factories. We need you as allies, partners, someone else who knows, someone else to share the weight with. That is worth more to us than any resource you could provide. Tol Sen studied him. She had been trained to read alien body language. Human body language was subtle, but she could read enough. He was telling the truth. The Coalition Council convened an emergency session 3 days later. Tol Sen transmitted her report. All of it, the swarm, the human fleet, the disruption weapon, the 62-year timeline, she held nothing back. The Council's reaction followed a predictable arc. First, disbelief. The numbers were too large, the threat too abstract, the source too unverified. This was a human trick, a deception designed to manipulate the coalition into surrendering its resources. Then verification. The coalition's own deep-range sensors were retasked, aimed at the coordinates the humans had provided. They detected nothing, empty space, background radiation, the normal signatures of an uninhabited galaxy. But one technician, a Thessan with unusually sensitive pattern recognition, found the anomaly. The microscopic distortion at the boundary. The statistical impossibility that the humans had stumbled on 2 centuries earlier. The coalition spent 11 days confirming what the humans had already confirmed 47 years ago. The swarm was real. Third came denial. Perhaps the swarm was not hostile, perhaps it was passing through. Perhaps it was a migration, not an invasion. Perhaps contact could be established, diplomacy attempted, understanding achieved. Tol Sen presented the data on the scout vessel. The captured unit, the disruption test, the way the organism had ceased, not communicated, not negotiated, ceased. Like a cell separated from a brain, the swarm did not diplomacy, it consumed. That was its function, its purpose, its existence. Fourth came fear. The scent of fear pheromones filled the council chamber, not just Velthari fear. Thessan trembling, Kulthari feathers gone white, Sorani bioluminescence flickering erratically. 14 species united in terror for the first time in their history. Fifth came the vote. The coalition would join the human war effort. All 14 species, all resources, all scientific knowledge, full integration with the United Earth Defense Authority. The vote was unanimous. Not because the coalition trusted the humans, not because the coalition believed the humans had pure motives, but because the alternative was extinction and the humans were the only door leading away from it. The formal agreement was signed aboard. The Meridian 7 days later, Director Hayden signed for humanity. Councillor Prelven, the eldest member of the Coalition Council, signed for the 14 species. The document was 3 pages long, shorter than any treaty in Coalition history. It contained no territorial provisions, no trade agreements, no cultural exchange protocols. It contained 1 paragraph. The coalition of 14 species and the United Earth Defense Authority hereby enter into a mutual defense pact for the purpose of confronting and neutralizing the entity designated as Swarm. All resources, knowledge, and capabilities of both parties are placed under joint command for the duration of the crisis. The survival of both parties is the sole objective. All other considerations are secondary. That was it, 3 pages, 1 paragraph of substance. The rest was signatures and legal formalities. Humanity had not asked for territory, had not asked for tribute, had not asked for submission, had asked for partners. Because they were tired of being alone. In the weeks that followed, the coalition's scientists were integrated into the human research programs. The flow of information went both ways. Human weapons technology was shared with coalition engineers. Coalition materials science was shared with human shipyards. Quantum physics expertise from 7 species was pooled to refine the disruption weapon. The results were immediate. Human shipyard output increased by 14% in the first month, thanks to Thessan metallurgy advances. The disruption weapon's effective range increased by 30%, thanks to Velthari quantum resonance theory. Coalition manufacturing facilities, retooled with human automation technology, tripled their production capacity within 6 months. The humans and the coalition were not just allies. They were becoming something new, a combined civilization. 14 species plus 15 forms of life working together, building together, preparing together. 61 years and 7 months remained. The work continued. On the Meridian's bridge, late at night by the ship's artificial day-night cycle, Tolsen stood alone and looked out at the Sol system. The shipyards churned, warships moved. The Dyson swarm grew, its frame segments multiplying, its energy capture increasing. The human machine never stopped, never rested, never slowed. And beyond the system's edge, hidden by camouflage that no longer fooled human sensors, the swarm drifted closer. Tolsen thought about the humans. 300 years ago, they had been splitting atoms. Now they were building a weapon to save a galaxy, not their galaxy, the galaxy, every species, every world, every form of life. They had not built this for themselves. They had built it for everyone. And they had done it alone. For 47 years, they had carried the weight of this knowledge without sharing it, without asking for help, without knowing if anyone would help. They had simply started building, calculating, preparing, as if it was the only option, as if giving up was not in their nature. Tolsen thought about what the coalition would have done if the humans had not detected the swarm, if the humans had not built the fleet, if the humans had not sent that second message, polite and firm, inviting the coalition to the truth. The coalition would have discovered the swarm in approximately 40 years, when it entered their territory, when the camouflage could no longer hide it, when it was too late to build, too late to prepare, too late to do anything but die. Well, the humans had saved them. It's not by fighting, not by conquering, by being ready, by being patient, by doing the work that no one else knew needed doing. Tolsen turned away from the viewport. She had work to do. 61 years and 7 months. It would have to be enough. The Velthari Coalition's historical archives would later record the first contact with humanity as the most important event in their 11,000-year civilization. Not because of what the humans were, but because of what they carried. The weight of knowledge, the burden of preparation, the isolation of knowing a secret that could break a galaxy, 47 years of building in silence, 47 years of watching the void and knowing what lived inside it, 47 years of being the only species awake while the rest of the universe dreamed. The coalition had called it first contact. Humanity had called it Tuesday. Because for humanity, this was not the beginning of something new. It was the middle of something that had started 47 years ago, something that would not end for 62 more years, something that required every day, every hour, every resource, every mind. The humans did not have time for awe. They did not have time for wonder. They did not have time for the ceremonies and celebrations that the coalition expected from first contact. They had a war to prepare for. And the war was coming. Whether the galaxy was ready or not. This is Apex Chronicle. The swarm is still moving. We will see you in the next one.